Pedro I love, and if not for Alvarez, he'd be my first choice. Now, he's not had a great season this year, but I think there's massive potential for him to scale up. And again, if Mo is staying, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find many better fits. You'd also need to upgrade the left wing, without doubt, with a goal-scoring option and, a pace option. But, yeah, João Pedro would be absolutely a yes from me. And then Benji Sesko, I'm not hugely keen. Like, he's really interesting because of the size, and he's unusual in how he plays, but he's very, very streaky. Very, very streaky. He's not as smooth with his dribbling in that as Ekitike is. He's another one that you definitely want to see a bigger sample size of. And the biggest issue for me with Sesko is he doesn't play up front by himself. We have no sample size of him as a pure back to goal number 9 lone striker, any of that. He plays in a 2. He's always played in a 2. Again, very, very talented. But I think there's a significant bust potential with him. He's very young. He's still only 21. You'd love to see another year. Jonathan David is on a free this summer. And that's the biggest reason to go and look for him. If we were selling both strikers, I think Jonathan David is one of, as say the Jota replacement as the backup 9, would be a really clever move. Does he want to come somewhere where he's not going to be first choice, though? I'm not sure he's good enough to be our starting number 9. I could be wrong. Maybe he can scale up again. But I'm not overly certain that he's the guy as a starting 9. I think there's a possibility he'd be a little bit underwhelming in that role. So maybe the move would be to have him as the backup. But again, either the wages might be too high or he might not want that kind of role. He will get offered starting number 9 positions across Europe, but just not with clubs of our level. Someone mentioned this on Twitter today. Now, he's only just moved in January, and I don't know if Monaco would be willing to sell him. But Mika Barit of Monaco as a Jota replacement could be ideal. If we got 30 million for Jota, I think you'd probably get this kid for 30, 35. They only paid 10 in January, but he's been obscenely good since going to Monaco. 11 goals in 12 games, 11 and 9 in the league. Before joining them, in his first, he only joined Sturm Graz permanently in last summer. He scored 11 in 16 in the league for them. He spent the previous 6 months there on loan, the end of last season. Prior to that, he was on loan at Motherwell. The reason he'd be so interesting is he's homegrown. Like he's London born and raised. Came through the Arsenal Academy, having initially started off with Fulham. We do like to sign players that get their schooling at Fulham. He's a very interesting player. And if you were going to look to bring in, like if you got Alvarez and you wanted to bring in a young number 9, because Alvarez isn't like a proper dyed-in-the-wool number 9. He's like a 9.5, 10. But he can play up front brilliantly. If you wanted them to go for a young number 9, rather than spending 60 million on Sesko or 60 million on, or 65 million or whatever it might be on Ekitike, or even the 75 million it might take to get João Pedro, 35, maybe even a little bit less on him might be the move. I think there's actually a bunch of homegrown players who people will not immediately tag as homegrown players that we could target this summer. Now, João Pedro is one of them. That's one of the big selling points for me anyway on him, is he is a homegrown player. He's well adapted to English football. Semenyo, people seem to forget is homegrown, but like he's English. He just declared for Ghana. But he is an English lad. He grew up in London and obviously came through at Bristol. So players like those, players like Alvaro Carreras, who's the left back I think we should sign at Benfica. He was at United for 4 years. So he does classify as homegrown. I could be wrong on the next one. And this is not me suggesting we sign him. It's just an idea. Based on what is almost certainly spoofing, there are reports that Arsenal really like Luis Diaz. That Arteta is a big fan. And I do wonder if maybe there was like a Diaz for Martinelli swap that could be worked. I'm pretty certain Gabriel Martinelli is homegrown because he joined Arsenal at 18. So he got his 3 years in before his 22nd birthday. I actually want to check that. Hang on. Let's go Arsenal. Boom. I'm pretty certain he's homegrown. I could be completely wrong, but I'm fairly confident that he is. He is, yeah. He is homegrown. Gabriel Martinelli is a homegrown player. So that could be something. Again, like I'm not saying we should sign him, but I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand because 2 years ago, the 22-23 season, he was dynamite. And Klopp loved him. Klopp absolutely loved it. And I saw some people, I floated the idea on Twitter, and some people were saying, oh, well, you know, he doesn't really suit a possession-based team at Arsenal. But, like, they're a different type of possession-based team. They're a risk-averse team. They're boring. They're slow-paced. They don't utilize him in any way, shape, or form. So, I don't think him struggling in the way Arteta has Arsenal playing would have any impact on how he'd do with us. There are some injury concerns, obviously, but I still think it's worth a look if they're interested in Diaz. Now, they wouldn't deal with us otherwise, but if they're interested in Diaz, it's pretty clear that Martinelli's not going to be a starter for them. And I think Martinelli's better than Diaz. He's also a lot younger than Diaz. So, yeah, just as a maybe a bit of a gamble you could take. Because if it didn't work out, you could sell him in a year. You know? On the point of Alvaro Carreras, so there's this growing belief among Liverpool fans, it would seem, that Milos Kerkez is the only left back we can possibly sign. And I just don't agree. And so I have to push back on it. And it's hard to push back properly on Twitter, obviously, because of the limit on characters and stuff. But people seem to have gotten this idea that I have this agenda against Milos Kerkez. I was calling for us to sign him when he was still at AZ Alkmaar. So I don't have any agenda against the fella. I think he's really good. But things have changed since then. Like, he was on our transfer committee list. You can go back and listen. It's all there for people to hear. Me telling people that we should sign him before he went to Bournemouth. But there's a couple of reasons why I don't think he's the fit now. 3 major things have changed. Number one, Jurgen Klopp is no longer Liverpool manager. Like, when I was suggesting Kerkez, it was for a Jurgen Klopp team. It was a like-for-like replacement for Andy Robertson. So, in that regard, he made a ton of sense. But Andy Robertson isn't a good fit in Arne Slot's team. So the type of left back we need has changed significantly. The second thing that's changed is that it looks like Trent may well leave. Kerkez with Trent made sense, even under Arne, even though he's not like the perfect Arne Slot left back. Kerkez and Trent made sense because Trent as a playmaking fullback and Kerkez as an end-line to end-line fullback, an overlapper, that makes sense. You're getting balance there. The third thing that changed is that his price went from 12 million in 2023 to 30 million last summer, when again, I did think we should sign him because I thought Trent would stay, to now 50 million. Milos Kerkez at this point is not a 50 million pound footballer or anywhere close to it. 25 to 30 would be a fair price for him. 50 is pretty extortionate. See, the issue is we're going to need to replace both fullbacks this summer. You have to have balance with your fullbacks. They come as a pair. You can't just throw two random fullbacks together and go, well, that'll work. Like some guy yesterday trying to say we should sign Frimpong and Kerkez. Horrific. We get absolutely rinsed defensively. That's a recipe for conceding 50 goals in the league. Frimpong can't defend, and while Kerkez tries his best, he's not a good defender at this point. He'll get there. The traits are there. The aggressiveness you have to like, how focused he can be is good. But he's not a good defender. He'll get there, but right now he's not a good defender. The idea of him and Frimpong is mental to me. But with Kerkez, because he's limited is not the right word, but his game is very straightforward. Like, it is up and down that flank. There's not a lot of flexibility in his game. He doesn't come inside and invert into midfield. He's not someone that sprays passes. And again, he's not a strong defensive player. So, ideally for me, we should be looking at a left back who's more of a playmaker than an overlapper. Because I think there's a wider range of players you can get at left back than there is at right back. I don't see a right back, with the sole exception of maybe Juanlu at Sevilla, who could give you real flexibility at right back. There are a lot more, the ones that you would look at and think that are on the market are more straightforward. They're more like Bradley. So I think you have to have that playmaker type from the left, the one that can invert into midfield, who can also hold width, but, give you that extra body in the middle of the park when you need it. You're not going to get that from Kerkez. And with the right backs that are on the market, I'm just not sure. Like, a Pedro Porro doesn't offer that. A Frimpong, if we were feeling silly, doesn't offer that. I think you have to find the balance. So for me, it's easier to go for someone like Alvaro Carreras, who can play inside and outside, who can be an overlapper, but can also be a playmaker. And he's homegrown, and he'd be significantly cheaper. Like, the price has to factor in here. And it's not to do with FSG being cheap or any of that tinfoil hat nonsense. The fact of it is, we've just got a lot to do this summer. Even if Mo and Virgil stay, we need 5 starters. Now, maybe you can kick the can on left wing. We still need 4 starters. And one of them's a number 9, and one of them's a holding midfielder. They're expensive positions to buy for. And fullback, taking away Trent and a couple of other very special examples over the last 25 years, fullback is never positioned to spend huge amounts of money.
The Reds, it's Jack here, and that was a clip from one of Anfield Index's audio podcasts. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do like, share and subscribe to keep up to date on all things LFC. We record around 100 audio podcasts every month, with our shows featuring match-going fans, top journalists, professional analysts and even Liverpool legends along the way, with the great Dane himself, Jan Molby, joining us every single week. If you want to listen to all our podcasts for free, head over to anfieldindex.com/podcasts. Our audio shows are available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Anfield Index. Or if you prefer to listen to all our podcasts in full and without any ads, why not head over to AI Pro today to check it out now at AnfieldIndexPro.com. If you want to get involved in the great growing community of Liverpool fans, check out the Anfield Index Discord. The link is in the description. Do get involved with that from Reds around every corner of the globe. For now, Reds, hope you enjoyed this video.